Welcome to Dad Space. It's not Dad's pace, it's Dad's space. Dad Space. Don't get confused, we're not talking about pacing Dad. That would be a different podcast. Pacing Dad. Dad paced. Dad pace. No, Dad Space. This is what we're calling it. We're going to stick with that. Thank you for listening. Thanks for dropping by. It's Father's Day, the end of Father's Day. So I'm getting one more episode in here before I pack up and move on to one of the other podcasts that we do. We have 6 weekly podcasts. Ugh. But this one's Dad Space. Thanks for listening. Here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. So glad you're here. Okay, so I was talking to a potential guest, pre-interview, and we got on the topic in our pre-interview. I like to talk to people ahead of time, not just hit record on their first time meeting. So we're chatting, and we had this conversation about when we were working in corporate and working in our jobs, and I kind of shared a story about the boss coming and asking to stay late, do extra, big project, really all hands on deck, and asking me to work weekends or evenings or longer hours or something. And I can remember, hearing somebody say once that we put pictures on our desk at the office to remind us of the sacrifices that we're making on behalf of our family, but in the same time, to remind us that we actually have a family. It is so easy as dads to want to create a sense of protection, and we can supply what our family needs by our work ethic and what we do to provide for them, and at the same time, we're not there for them. So there's a balance here. Now, by no means am I saying to you go into your job today and quit because you miss your kids. But where's the balance? Where is that sweet spot where everything is just right? Do your kids need you 24 hours a day? I don't know if they do, to be quite honest. But I know they need you more than 1 hour a week, 1 hour a day. They need access. They need support. They need you. Your spouse, your partner, your wife, your significant other needs you in their life. They need the time that you and only you can provide. So how this week, coming out of Father's Day, how this week are you going to craft some time in your calendar for those you love? What are you going to do? How are you going to show up this week? What can you do to create time? I can tell you, I mentioned earlier in other podcasts that, my kids are gone, and we have the empty nest syndrome, which I read about when I was a young dad, but never really anticipate what it would feel like. Time is our enemy. Time is that one thing that you can never get back. And as easy as it is to fall into the trap of doing more and more at work, you need to realize that there are people at home that care more about you than your boss will ever care. They will care more about you at home than that next promotion. I can remember my boss asking me to do extra and me having to make a choice in that moment of what was more important to me. Sometimes, honestly, I chose the job because it meant an extra day off that I've earned. It meant a raise, a bonus. And that money I was able to take home and help with the mortgage, the car payments, the food in the cupboard. I can remember a point in my career where we could go grocery shopping and we didn't have to look at the prices because the amount of money coming in with my income and my wife's income, money wasn't we weren't rich by many means, but grocery shopping was a fun experience in that moment where we could just buy what we need, buy what we want, and buy healthier foods because we could afford it. It's not like that now, and I do miss those days, but the trade-off was I would leave my house at 4 a.m. I would carpool into Toronto, which is about roughly a 2-hour drive from where I live. In the winter, there was one day where it was almost 4.5 hours one way to get to work because of a storm. And so I'd get to my office around 6 a.m. Nobody really in the office except a few diehards like me. I would work till 7 or 8 o'clock at night because I was carpooling and I was at the mercy of my bride. And there are late meetings. They were an executive in the company. So then I'd get home 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. My kids already be in bed. My wife is exhausted. She's worked. She's taking care of the kids. She's done it all as well. And roll into the house and try to make the best of the last minutes of my day. And then start all over the next day. And just kind of rinse and repeat. Wasn't fun. But in my mind, necessary. And now I look back and wonder if I missed something. If you're feeling like that, that's what Dad Space is about. If you're a young parent and your whole parenting life is ahead of you, listen to those who are a few steps ahead. And listen to some of the regrets. Listen to some of the do-overs that we wish we could have. I guess in golf, it's your mulligan. It's that chance to take another swing. I would like to take another swing. Time passes. Create as much time as you can for your family, for your wife, your spouse, partner, your kids. Those bosses I mentioned at the beginning, they're long gone. They don't care about my current situation. They hardly cared at the time. And I think I gave them more than I should have, to be quite honest. So you're going into work tomorrow. It'll be Monday morning after Father's Day. New perspective. What matters this week? And how are you going to show up? That calendar is a mighty formidable tool in your toolkit. Use that calendar this week. Create the space. Thanks for listening to Dad Space. It's a podcast that I hope gives you some insight. You get to hear from some great guests and spark some conversation. Remember, look to the person ahead of you. Do life with the person beside you. And reach back and help the person behind you. It's Dad Space. Your space for dads. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, what did we do good? What do we need to work on? Let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode. It's coming up right now. Just let this keep playing and it'll automatically come. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.